Good afternoon, Omaha. Put your hands together and give it up for our Wont Back Down host, Adam Mockler.
You may know me from my own YouTube channel, but tonight, we are here to fight for you all. We are here to win back the house. That is our goal. And there's a reason we came to Omaha. We came to Omaha for a very specific reason. It's because we want to let you know that we hear you, we see you, and as someone who grew up in Indiana, as a blue dot, with people around me that I always had to defend my values, I want you guys to know that we are here for you. We hear you tonight, and we see you. We are going to fight for you until the very end. Right now, we have a few beautiful things happening. We have both on-the-ground and in-person movements sprouting up across the country. Whenever you take a loss, it's time to pick the pieces back up and figure out how we can put them together. And that's why we're here tonight. So when it comes to on-the-ground movements, I want to give a huge shout out to Move On for putting this event on. Put your hands together for Move On. I look into the crowd at the event that Move On put together, and I see diversity in age, diversity in backgrounds, but we're all here with one common goal, and that is to beat this gangster regime. Tell them to keep their hands off of our country. Now, along with the on-the-ground movements like Move On, which is very important, we also have online movements that are growing, like Midas Touch. Who here knows Midas Touch? Everybody knows Midas Touch. You want to know why? It's because we are beating Fox News. We are beating Fox News right now. So, it's been a hard few months for everybody. You know, this administration, they came in. Do you guys remember when Elon Musk was walking around the White House? That feels like a different reality. They came in and they thought that we were going to give up. They thought that we were going to lie down. They thought that we weren't going to fight anymore. But I want you to look at the banner behind me. You know what we said? We said, we won't back down. We won't back down. Say it one more time. We won't back down. And that's what's important, that we never back down. We've seen massive Medicaid cuts to the most vulnerable communities. We've seen ICE kidnapping people. ICE has been targeting people who are going to immigration courthouses. They want to have their day in court, and they came to this country to live a better life. And ICE is targeting these people. Not people who are committing crimes like Trump promised. No, people who want to live a better life. And it's disgusting. Right now, the National Guard was mobilized to DC. A few nights ago, I was on CNN debating Scott Jennings, and he said, I don't care what... You're cheering for me, not Scott Jennings, right? Yeah. But he said, you know, I don't care what the people of DC think. I care what the president thinks. And these aren't the type of people we should be listening to. Yeah, boo. These aren't the type of people that should be in power. So one more time, the reason that we're in Omaha tonight is to listen to you all, to hear you all. So we have some amazing speakers coming on, and then we'll do a Q&A with the audience. The first speaker that we have for the night is the youngest representative in Congress. I want you all to welcome Representative Maxwell Frost of Florida.
Omaha! How we feeling today, Omaha? Let me hear it. Won't back down. Say it. Say it. Won't back down. Say it. Say it. Nah, but I love this one. You can't stop the revolution. You can't stop the revolution. How we feeling today, Omaha? How we feeling? Well, well, what a beautiful venue. I am so proud to be here with you all the way from the great state of Florida. Hey. Well, I used to say the great state. Now I usually say the beautiful state because we are a beautiful state of beautiful people. Happen to be run by fascists right now. But just like we're going to do in the midterms, we're going to vote them out. But I got to tell you, today I'm actually feeling really good. Not just because I'm here in Omaha, Nebraska with all of you beautiful people, but because in my home state, many of us have been engaged in a hard fight. You know, a few months ago, our governor, you might have heard of him, Ron DeSantis. The guy who eats the yogurt with his fingers. He announced that he was going to build essentially an internment camp in the middle of the Everglades for immigrants. He called this place so-called Alligator Alcatraz. And so about a month and a half ago, I became one of the first politicians to go in and use my power of oversight to look at what the hell is going on in there. But I didn't go there to go on a field trip. I went in there to see what was going on, to tell the public, but not just tell the public, but to tell our partners, the Friends of the Everglades, the Miccosukee tribe, and the Center for Biological Diversity, that engaged in a lawsuit to close the place down. And we just heard about 24 hours ago that the judge has ruled that Alligator Alcatraz has to shut down. They can't send another immigrant to that place. And I bring this up because we're in this moment. I know a lot of us feel defeated. I know a lot of us feel like we don't have power, but we do have power. We do have power. And politicians, look, I used to say this on the front lines of the Black Lives Matter protests. When you don't have all the power you want, you damn well use all the power you got. And we know we don't have every lever we want. But we know that as members of Congress, we can go inside these places and not just shine a light on what's going on, but work with partners to sue the hell out of them and get these places closed down. And we did that. And I'm so proud to be here at the Wont Back Down Tour, because now we have our eyes fixed on 2026, the midterms. And let me tell you something you already know. Donald Trump knows if the election were held today, they would lose. Donald Trump knows that when the election is held in November next year, they will lose. That's why he came out and he said blatantly, Texas, I want you to redraw your lines to get me 4 to 5 new seats. That's why he's telling other states that are run by Republicans, we need you to redistrict so we can get more seats. Because he knows they can't win, so he wants to cheat. The same thing he's done his entire life. But I'll tell you, something else I feel really good about is what California is doing. They're saying, we're not going to let you do this without a fight. And even when, think about this, even when Democrats, when we have to do something we're not necessarily fully proud of, but we know we have to do to protect democracy, even then we do it differently because California is putting it on the ballot to put it to the people. And that will make the victory even more sweeter when that ballot proposal passes in November. So I gotta tell you though, whatever happens with the lines, we'll keep fighting. I promise you, I've texted every Democratic governor I know saying, we need you to do the same thing right now. We have to fight fire with fire. We have to. But it's really going to come down to a handful of seats across the entire country. A handful of seats where we have to be competitive and we have to win. And here's the thing. The big ugly law or the big beautiful bill for billionaires that was passed a few months ago, that was greenlit by every single Republican across this country in the House of Representatives is essentially, we say it's the largest transfer of wealth from the working class to the rich, but it's something else too. It's literally theft. It is stealing from the working class and giving it to the billionaires. It is stealing from the working class and giving it to the mega corporations. And it's this same tired story over and over and over again of us working for something and then having billionaires like Donald Trump either buy off politicians or become the politician and make the rich even richer while the poor get even poorer. But the good news here and the opportunity here is this bill is really unpopular across the entire nation. And our job is very simple with the midterms coming up. We have to spread the news. We have to talk about why this was passed, how it was passed, and what we are going to do to build a country that works for everyone. Because the fact of the matter is Donald Trump traveled this nation and lied to everyone. Told people the reason you can't pay your rent is because of that trans kid. The reason that you can't afford your health care or the reason you're one hospital visit away from being on the streets is because of that immigrant. But we have to tell the truth. See, these billionaires want us to look at each other. They want us to look at each other and blame our neighbors instead of looking up and blaming them. Instead of looking up and blaming them. It's not, you not being able to pay your rent doesn't have to do with trans people, but it has to do with private equity and billionaires that have bought up all the homes and apartments and have got the rent up too damn high. That the reason you can't afford your health care is because we have a broken healthcare system in this country. That isn't even a healthcare system, it's a sickness care system that makes money off when we get sick. And we're not interested in these solutions that are going to fix some things for some people if you fall in this bracket at this time. But we have to be for big solutions that say healthcare is a human right. Everybody in this country deserves to be healthy. That in the richest country on the face of the earth, no one should sleep on the streets. Everybody should have a roof over their head. And that this message, even though we're going to beat congressional Republicans and take the House back, when it comes down to the people, this message isn't about D versus R. This message is about the people versus the problem. The people versus the problem. And my belief is that if we're able to coalesce around that simple message, we will flip the House. And not only will we flip the House, but we will elect a pro-democracy, democratic, pro-worker president in 2028 as well. And when we have the levers of power, because I got to tell you, throughout this administration, we've been taking notes and writing bills. Because if Donald Trump has shown us one thing, is we have some potholes in our democracy. And he won't be the last authoritarian to try to come to power and tear it all apart. So we have to strengthen our democracy by getting rid of super PACs and getting big money out of our elections. We have to ensure that we pass legislation to ensure health care for every person in this country. We have to ensure that everybody that can work has a job and a federal jobs guarantee in this country. And making sure that this democracy works for all of us. Look, let me wrap up with this. 50% of this country doesn't vote. 50%. And listen, I know, it's horrible. But we have to be a movement. And movements are not about subtraction. It's about addition. Okay? And I'll tell you this as a young black Latino kid raised in the South that went to Southern Baptist Church my whole life. I can tell you this, shaming people into something almost never works. And when it does work, it harbors resentment. What we have to do is inspire people with an agenda worth fighting for. Because the truth of the matter is there's so many people in this country, there's so many young people in this country especially, who feel like, why should I work to protect a democracy that I feel like isn't protecting me? Our answer can't be, shut the hell up, you're wrong, grow up. But it has to be, I understand where you're coming from. Because look, I got involved in politics when I was 15 years old because I didn't want to get shot in my school. Because I didn't want to get shot in my school. So, are you guys ready to build a movement to take back the House next year in 2026? Are you ready to fight for big, bold proposals that'll change this country to work for all of us, not those at the top? And are you ready to fight in the footsteps of the great freedom fighters, people like Angela Davis, who said, I am no longer accepting what I cannot change, I am changing what I cannot accept. Are you ready, Omaha? Are you ready, Omaha? Well, let's get it done. Won't back down. Won't back down. Thank you all so much. Have a good day. I'll be back.
There is nothing more important than the fresh emerging leaders within the Democratic Party, and that is an amazing, amazing example. Put your hands together for Representative Maxwell Frost. There's also nothing more important than getting a bunch of people in a room that have one common goal. Even if we do have different beliefs or different backgrounds, we have the common goal of restoring our democracy, and that's what we are doing here today. You guys get to be the power block that pushes us over the finish line. You guys help choose which leaders we platform, choose which leaders we help move through the party, and I just want to know that we are eternally grateful that you're here. Next, we have one of your favorite senators, your favorite senator, Senator Elizabeth Warren.
Nebraska! Woo! It is good to be in Nebraska. Now, some of you may know I grew up 600 miles due south of here in Oklahoma. We got any Okies in the room? Wow! Not many, but they are loud. Not many, but they are loud. That means I grew up on OU Nebraska football in the glory days. Oh yeah. Oh yeah, I grew up with 3 older brothers, all served in the military. Yep. Oldest brother, 244 combat missions in Vietnam. We were lucky to get that guy back. I grew up in a family that never spent a single day that we didn't worry about money, that we didn't always count how much there was, what we had, how much longer it had to last. And when I was about 12, my daddy had a heart attack, and it nearly wiped us out. The bills piled up, we lost the car, and we came about that close to losing our home. And I remember the day that I walked into my parents' bedroom, and my mother, her face was red and puffy, and she was walking back and forth, and she was saying, "We will not lose this house. We will not lose this house. We will not lose this house." She was terrified. And I was 12 years old looking at her, and I was terrified. And my mother did what a lot of mamas had done. She pulled on her best dress, she put on her high heel shoes, she walked to the Sears, and she got a minimum wage job answering phones. And that minimum wage job saved our house, and it saved our family. My mother, my brothers, they taught me about courage, and they taught me about people who fight for what they believe in. They They taught me about people who fight for their families, who fight for their neighbors, who fight for their communities, who fight for their country. I am proud of that America. I am proud of that America, and I use my voice as best I can to fight for that America. Because that is not the America that Donald Trump wants to build. Donald Trump's America is an America where every day billionaires get richer. Every day, you, good families, hardworking families, are asked to give up just a little more so that billionaires can buy another island, can buy another yacht. Well, I am here with my friend, Maxwell Frost, to say I believe in an America that works for all of us, and we will not back down. We will not back down. So I want to remind you all, put you back a year ago, right now. And you may remember, we're in the middle of this presidential, and Donald Trump is out there making promises. Remember those promises? He said, with a single phone call, he would end the war in Ukraine. Yeah. He said, only he would end the war in Gaza. Just like that. Remember that? And I think I remember he said he would release all of the Epstein files. Yeah, so what happens? Donald Trump now, he can't remember any of that. He can't talk about any of that. Accountability is what a democracy is about. And let's just be really clear with Donald Trump. We want to help the Ukrainians when they fight back against a Russian invasion. We want to put an end to the war in Gaza and feed those starving children. And Buster, we want to see all of the Epstein files. But there was one promise Donald Trump made every day, multiple times a day. He said to people all across this country, and this was the one people heard. Independents heard it, Democrats heard it, Republicans heard it, and that is that Donald Trump, on day one, his words, on day one would lower costs for American families. On day one. On day one, we're now on day 215. And what has happened to the cost of groceries? Up. What's happened to the cost of utilities? What's happened to the cost of housing? And the cost of school shoes and backpacks and baby strollers? Up, up, up. And what is Donald Trump doing about it? Oh, it's worse than nothing. On groceries, he gets out there and creates chaos on tariffs so that your grocery bill goes up. On utilities, he cancels clean energy projects that would help bring down your costs. Exactly. And on housing, cost of housing is up. What does he do? He opens a Tesla dealership on the front lawn of the White House. Look, Donald Trump promised on day one to lower costs, and all he has done is push costs up at the big one. The big one is health care. How many people in here are paying more for health care? Drugs, prescription drugs, trips to the doctor, right? And so what have Donald Trump and the Republicans done? They have decided to pass the big ugly bill that will take away health care from 15 million Americans. That will drive up healthcare costs even for people who have insurance, and that will close rural hospitals all across this country. I want to just say a word for a minute about healthcare, because I think this is really important, and we don't defend enough what we're trying to do here. You know, we don't know whose baby is going to be born and run up $1 million in medical bills before they ever make it out of the hospital, right? We don't know whose best friend is going to get hit by a bus and need a home health aide and a wheelchair to be able to live independently. We don't know whose grandma is going to outlive her savings. So we are Americans. We are people who say every one of us is going to pitch in some of our nickels, and we're going to make sure that if it's your sister's baby, if it's your best friend, if it's your grandma, we are all here for each other to make sure that they get the care they need. Donald Trump and every single Republican in Congress, including 5 Republicans right here in Nebraska, all voted to say we're going to slice into that program and take 10 million people, little babies, best friends, and grandmas, and tell them no more care for you. That's that is the Republican Party Donald Trump is building. And we are here today to say that we will get in this fight because those are the kind of people we are. We are the people who care for our families. We are the people who take care of our neighbors. We are the people who will fight for care for our babies, for our best friends, and for our grandmas. You will not take it away, not on our watch. We will not back down. We will not. And understand this, I'm not talking in the abstract. Set your watches. In September, the Republicans are going to need to get a budget through to keep the government open. And to do that, they're going to need some Democratic votes. Okay, you want my vote, and I hope the votes of the rest of these Democrats, then by golly, you can restore health care for 10 million Americans. Look, it is hard out there. I know it is hard. And a lot of times you feel like it's just you're on defense and you're on defense and you're on defense. But the truth is, we're out there to fight for something. We're out there to fight for an America that just works better. We're out there to fight for an America where we actually have, God, I sound like a nerd, but reasonable tariff policies so that we can bring down grocery costs, right? And that's what Democrats are going to do. We're going to call out the liar in the White House. We're going to call out every one of these damned Republican senators and Republican representatives. These spineless creatures who cannot stand up to Donald Trump. We are going to call them out and say, we are not going to help you build an America that just makes a handful of billionaires richer. while everybody else gets poorer. We, Democrats, people who are in this fight, patriots, we are the people who will fight for an America where people can afford their groceries. Fight for an America where mamas and daddies have access to child care. Fight for an America where housing is available to first-time home buyers and to renters and to people with no housing at all. And by God, we are going to fight for an America where everybody has access to health care. This is a moment to fight, but understand this, it is a moment of hope. It is a moment of hope because look around this room. This is where power is. You are the people that Donald Trump is afraid of. Donald Trump wants to shut down democracy because that's the only way he can hang on to power. He wants to change the rules because he knows if everybody votes, he loses. I am here tonight, this afternoon, with you because I have that hope in my heart. Because I'm still that 12-year-old girl who watched my mama pull on her best dress, put on her high heel shoes, and do what damn well needed to be done. We are fighting the righteous fight, and we won't back down.
This is the energy that the party needs. The energy in this room is what the Democratic Party needs. A room full of fighters. I know you guys see what I see. Like I said earlier, after a loss, you pick up the pieces, and now we see new leaders emerging within the party. Not quite new, but how do you guys feel about Governor Gavin Newsom stepping up to the plate lately? He's been And of course, on this stage, we've got some brilliant leaders. And now we're going to ask some questions. We're going to have a chat, and then we're going to open it up to a few audience questions. So it's going to be good. I want to start off here. Now, Donald Trump's approval rating has been rapidly slipping, but that does not, and that's a good thing, right?
Not fast enough.
But that doesn't automatically mean that Democrats are popular. In fact, the Democratic Party's approval rating is also near an all-time low. So the question is, what do Democrats need to do to win back Congress in the midterms and just win back the people?
Well, I got to tell you, nobody elected the Democrats to lie down and play dead. The number one thing we got to do is stand up and fight back. And we got this coming up in September. I want to say this again. Up in September, the Republicans are going to need Democratic votes to keep this budget, to pass a budget. Republicans now own it. They got the House, they got the Senate, they got the White House. They got to do what Congresses have done time immemorial and sit down and negotiate. And what we're going to stand up and fight for is we are going to fight for health care, for our babies, for our best friends, and for our seniors. They're going to give it to us, and we're going to fight back. I think that's a key part.
So you'll use your leverage to fight back.
You know, I want to say on this, we don't have as much power as we want. And damn, it is frustrating sometimes in Washington. He does things and you want to say, my God, can't you stop him? And sometimes the answer is no. But not having as much power as you want is not the same thing as having no power at all. We have power and we must use it. Mark it September.
Representative Frost, what are your thoughts? As a young dude in the party, I want to know, how do you think we win back not only the people, but also younger people?
You know, I agree with everything Senator Warren said. The other part of this, too, is it's fighting back against Donald Trump, but it's also the fact that we can't win an election just giving people something to vote against. We have to give people something to vote for, right? And I think this is when We have this family discussion within the party. What do we stand for, and what does it mean? And for me, it has to be simple. We need an agenda that we run on, that we win on, and that we do. And when you do that, it helps earn the trust of the people. You mentioned that the party's approval ratings are so low. What's one of the ways to get it up? People tend to like you more when you win. And so I think one of the ways we can win is putting up a bold agenda and getting back to what the Democratic Party really is about. Think about all these things that are a fact of life. Social Security, Medicare. These are things that were called radical, crazy things when they were proposed and passed by Democrats. Now they're a fact of life. And I know it feels like it's hard to dream right now because we're fighting back against things, but I still dream all the time about the future when people will look at our healthcare for all system that we passed and they go, this is such a fact of life. It's so normal. We'll look at each other and go, it was anything but normal just 10 years ago. And so I think we have to think about what's that thing. What's our Social Security? What's our Medicare? What are we going to do to build upon what we have to make sure that everyone has what they need in the richest country on the face of the earth?
And when you run on a bold agenda, and then you enact that agenda, it connects a line in people's minds. Like, hey, I can trust this party to get into office and to fight for me. Representative Frost, how do you think we can support younger people who are seeking office, who might have passion for getting in local or federal office? What's your advice, since someone has done it?
I have some experience here. One of the most difficult things for me when I was running for Congress was actually things in my personal life. Running for office, especially running for Congress, is a full-time job. And a lot of people who run, you have money in the bank to be able to put your all into the campaign. And at the time, I was the national organizing director of March for Our Lives, the organization that came after the shooting that happened in Parkland. And I decided to quit my job to run for Congress. I had some money in the bank, and I told myself, you know what, this is enough money to live off of for a year and a half. Breaking news, it was not enough money to live off of for a year and a half. And not just that, but this was when the rent hike freeze was lifted in the state of Florida. And right after that freeze happened, I get a text from my landlord, next month, your rent's going up 33%. So I was priced out of my apartment. I experienced homelessness for 2 months because of that, and because I didn't have an income. And then I figured I could start, driving Uber to help pay for my bills. And the reason I bring this up is because had I had a family, had I not been just like some guy who could, slum it out for a year and a half, I would have dropped out. There is a reason why there aren't more young people in the United States Congress. There are institutional barriers to us being able to have a fair shot at even running for the office itself. And look, I always say I won because we had the right message. We built the best volunteer operation. We knocked on every damn door. We called every number. We outworked everyone. And the fifth one I always say is it was the right place, right time. There was a little bit of luck. And I bring that up because I don't want people to see, I'm not a singular figure. There are so many young people across this country that can and should be in office and positions of leadership. But our government has to do more. It shouldn't be easy to run for office, but it shouldn't be damn near impossible. And we have a lot to do. And I mentioned getting rid of super PACs, getting big money out of politics. These are the sorts of things we can do. And the fact that when you're running for office and you don't have a job and that's your full-time job, people have to pay their rents. They have to take care of their families. How do we make it so, people can have a stipend? Different things like this to make it more accessible so young people and young working families can be represented in Congress. But I'll say it again. Part of the problem is not that there isn't enough young people who want to be involved or that can do it. There is an abundance of young people who can do this and should do this. But we have to get rid of a lot of these hurdles that are meant to keep them out of it and not even consider it.
Senator Warren, what would be your message to the emerging leaders within the Democratic Party?
Fight back. You don't get what you don't fight for. I want to say about young people being in these fights, what Maxwell says is exactly right. The barriers are way, way too high. But all of us have to be willing to stand with those who run. You know, the best part when I ran, because I ran, I was obviously much older than you are when you ran for the first time, but I was also a total novice at it. When I ran, I'd never knocked on a door. I had never been involved in any of the political, I was a policy nerd. That was my entire, and when people were calling me, there was a Republican incumbent in Massachusetts, people were calling me saying, you should run against this guy. You will lose, but you should run.
I love when they say that.
Yeah, exactly. My opening line is, Democrats, get a better sales pitch. But the part that truly moved me were the people who said, if you will run, I will help you. I will take off Tuesday afternoons and I'll make phone calls. I'll come run the office on Saturday mornings. I know how to do web design and I will set up something for you. I will monitor this. I will help push back. Because running for office is not something you do by yourself. And so you can either do it with an entire team that your billionaire fortune hires, or you can do it with people like the people in here who say, you take point and I will be a part of that. And so I say to every young person, volunteer to take point, but I say to everybody else, volunteer to help those who take point. Yeah.
Very, very well said. We're going to take some questions from the audience in just 1 second, but I do have one more question for you guys, both of you guys. What's your plan to message around not only the National Guard deployment to DC, but now it seems like we have 19 more states it was. Senator Warren, you want to hop in?
Oh, let me just start with, it's time for the District of Columbia to be a state.
Yep.
Look, we need, in America, to pass a Voting Rights Act. And that means that everybody has access to the vote. It means no more gerrymandering anywhere. And by golly, it means DC statehood. Yep.
Any thoughts?
You know, I think because there's so many people, and you know, you hear a lot of like people, pundits and folks in a lot of mainstream media too say, Democrats shouldn't talk about this because it's a distraction. You know, you hear that. And when you call something a distraction, you're implying that we shouldn't pay attention to it, that we should pay attention to the other thing. And there's folks who want us to believe that there's like two different things going on. On one end, we have the big ugly law. We have the largest transfer of wealth from the working class to the billionaires, gutting Medicaid, gutting nutritional assistance, and we have the cost of living. And then on the other hand, we have the federal government occupying our cities, ICE terrorizing our communities, kidnapping people and human trafficking them to other countries, and the taking away of our democracy. And the thing here is, it's not two different things, it's the same damn thing.
Same thing.
It's the same thing. These aren't things to distract from one another. This is things to enable the other thing. Because the only way you pass the big, ugly law and feel like you won't feel the political repercussions is by deploying the military to our streets, is by scaring people with ICE, is by trying to gerrymander the hell out of the country. So it's not two different things or three different things going on. It's the same story. And it's a story that a lot of us are familiar with. The rich getting richer and the poor getting poorer. Let me tell you, my first time I went to the Everglades detention facility, Alligator Alcatraz, I saw two private planes on the tarmac. And I asked, who do those private planes belong to? They don't look like state planes. They said, oh, they're executives from two of the biggest corporations that are running the place. And I gotta tell you, when I was there, I barely saw any law enforcement or even the National Guard. It was all privately run. $450 million of Florida taxpayer monies going to billionaires and mega corporations. So it's the same damn story. And what we have to do as political leaders, as organizers, as activists, is be able to tell that story. Not say, we're not going to talk about this thing because we want to talk about this other thing, but be able to say, it's all one thing. It's all one story. And it's all about taking stuff away from you and giving it to them like it's been going on for decades.
And it also makes a lot of sense when you look at it through the framework of this administration just lying about everything. It doesn't have to be a distraction. They can be lying about the big ugly bill, lying about the Epstein list, 100%, lying about the way that they are enacting these ICE raids. They're just liars. They're trying to cover every single thing up. Now for some questions from the audience. It's gonna be the fun part. Where am I supposed to look? We have Grant. Grant is gonna ask the first question. I love that flag that you have back there. Okay, I see you over there.
Scared me for a second.
The F Trump flag, sorry, I should clarify. Okay, our first question is from Grant. Grant, where are you from and what's your question?
Over here.
Okay, cool.
Hi, I'm Grant from Nebraska. My question is, when laws are so clearly being broken and checks and balances are failing, what recourse do we have?
Representative, you want to start?
Thank you. And we do know Trump is breaking the law left and right. And this is, we all know about Project 2025. And I can tell you, Project 2025 is actually Florida 2020. Everything that we're experiencing, we've been dealing with in the South and the state of Florida for years. And it's part of the playbook. Do illegal things. When they say they want to run the country like a company, they mean it in a lot of different ways. But I always think about the way that certain companies act when their workers are trying to unionize. And what they'll do is they'll do things that they know completely break labor law. Fire the barista, intimidate the barista or the worker, this and that. They know that it's illegal, but they know that they can work faster than the court system. They know that they can do something that's not allowed, and maybe it'll be resolved a year or 2 years later. But hey, at the end of the day, even if they have to pay a fine, they stop the union. And it's the same thing with this. They are doing stuff that they know is illegal because they know that they can work faster than the courts a lot of the time. But litigation is one of our top tools. And I bring up the alligator Alcatraz situation because I think it's a good example of elected officials, organizations, and then the people working together to get something shut down. And the fact of the matter is, even one of the witnesses in the case was a state representative from my district, Representative Anna Scamani, who came in with me during the tour, wrote everything down, did a declaration, and actually was a witness in the case to talk about what she saw inside there. When I got back to DC, I went to the House floor and I gave a long speech detailing from my notes everything I saw. Why? Because then it's part of the congressional record to be used as evidence in the case, right? And so, but this isn't like, we didn't all wake up one morning and go like, we must do this. We spoke and we organized with our partners, the plaintiffs of the case, and worked together on it. And that's how collectively, and obviously the plaintiffs led on this, we were able to get that thing shut down. I think it's a really good example of ways that we can all work together to make it happen. But that's one example.
I just want to add, I think Maxwell's exactly right. We get in the courts, we fight in the courts, and we win most of those cases. But I want to do the other half. You all get together and you get out and you protest, you fight, you show up for the 1 or 2 Republicans who will actually still do a town hall. They're really afraid. But that's the other half of this. I know that it may feel like nothing came of it. Oh, a lot comes of it. The fact that you show up, the fact that you show up here, the fact that you show up outside the offices of those Republicans who represent you in Nebraska and won't do town halls, the fact that you show up and that you demand to have your voices heard, the fact that you still talk about that big ugly bill, that you talk about what it means to lose health care, that you talk about the rising prices, that you talk about the loss of democracy, it matters. It matters because you're turning the heat up under those Republicans. And we've watched it. One cracks here, another one cracks over there. You don't win a fight like this in a single battle. There's too much power on the other side. The billionaires are strong and they are organized, and man, they're holding on. But we are fighting back. So I'm with Maxwell. Let's go to the courts. But the other half is we got to be out there, we got to be loud, and we won't back down. That's how we fight back.
Very well said. We have one more question from the audience. This one's coming from Grant. How you doing, Grant?
Alex will be asking a question.
Okay.
Alex.
Chris.
Sorry, my card says something.
Christy.
Alex.
Hi, I'm Kristen. And I'm a proud Nebraskan. And my question is, what do we do about the gerrymandering that has had such an impact and has had a large part in putting people in power who don't truly represent their districts?
Senator.
So look, I've been fighting for years now for independent assignments of districts. No gerrymandering anywhere in the country. We need a federal law. That's how it needs to work. That is our goal, and that's how it's going to work someday. But right now, given what Texas has done, I say to California and Gavin Newsom, well played. Thank you. Our democracy does not survive when one side, the Democrats, play by the rules as they're written, and the Republicans keep breaking the law and play by whatever rules let them seize power and hold on to it. The defense of democracy is our first priority. So I support California in what they're doing. We want to take back the House and, please God, take back the Senate. We pass a Voting Rights Act that guarantees the right of every American citizen to vote, to get that vote counted, to get a district that is drawn independently, and to get DC statehood, and that is a big step toward protecting our democracy. That's the job.
It's also worth pointing out that when Democrats were last in power, we tried to ban gerrymandering. You guys tried to ban gerrymandering twice.
Yep.
Then Republicans, when they took power, rather than doing the same thing, they decided to double down on the most radically aggressive gerrymandering policy in the mid-cycle. That's the big problem here. It's not about who gerrymandered more in 2011 or 2010. It's about Donald Trump in the middle of the cycle, the middle of the census, deciding to intentionally redistrict Texas, or at least asking Abbott to, so they get the direct amount of seats that they need to win back the midterm. That's the messaging that we need to use. Sometimes on TV, people get too caught up in the tit for tat. It's not about the tit for tat. It's about what's going on now. So, Representative Frost, do you want to answer the same question?
Well, and I'd say also, we have to remind people how screwed up this is, and that it's not normal. Like, for some reason, Donald Trump feels like just because he's doing stuff out in the open, that it's okay. And we have to make sure that people know that this shit is not okay. And just because he went on TV in a press conference, I remember seeing them ask this question, and I was blown away when they asked the question, why do you want it to be changed? And he said, oh, it's not a big change. You know, they changed the map so we get 3 to 5 seats. But see, because he says it like that, in kind of a nonchalant way, a lot of people believe, oh, well, this has to be normal, you know, he's saying it out loud. And we have to be the ones that tell them it is not normal. And we have to ban gerrymandering for all offices across the country too. Look, the fact of the matter is what the Texas Democrats did was brave. Brave. And now they want to gerrymander the state of Florida, even more than it's gerrymandered now. They want to do mid-district gerrymandering. And because they have gerrymandered the state house seats so much in Florida, we don't even have enough Democrats to deny them a quorum. Mm-hmm. We don't even have that tool available to us. So our state legislators are going to show up because they're going to be loud, and they're going to make sure they can't do this without a fight. But see, the gerrymandering has a chain reaction that impacts so many things at the federal level, but also at the state level as well.
Very, very well said. Sorry for my note cards. Did we have another question? No? That was it? All right. Well, I want to see if you guys have any closing remarks for the crowd. Senator Warren, any last remarks that you'd like to say?
You know, I just want to say two things. Republicans are afraid of democracy. They're doing the gerrymandering, they're doing the lying, they're doing the cheating, they break the law because they are afraid of people. They're afraid of you. They're afraid of what it means if this government actually works for the people. I see this as a hopeful moment, a moment when more people in Nebraska and more people all across this country say, I'm ready to get in this fight. I am ready to get in this fight on behalf of my family and my neighbors and my community and my state and my country. I am ready to be a patriot by fighting. I am ready to build a country that works not for a handful of billionaires, but that works for everyone. This is our moment. This is our moment.
I agree. In such a weird way, you know, things are so messed up, as we all know. Yeah. And it's hard to feel hopeful sometimes. But I do see so much opportunity in the fact that so many people are waking up across this country and asking themselves questions they've never asked before. And they're looking at this corruption in broad daylight. They're looking at the oligarchy and billionaires and corporations taking over our country, being in the White House, giving Trump, what did they give him, a gold plaque or something like that?
And the Qataris give him a $400 million jet, and he trades crypto and makes $1 billion.
They're seeing
it's corruption right out
in broad daylight. And the opportunity here is people are seeing it. People are seeing it, and our job, and to put on because before I was ever a politician, I was a field organizer knocking on doors, and I gotta tell you that the way we do this is by going to the people and talking to people directly. Not expecting them to come to the politics, but bringing the politics to them. And when we do that, you know, because people understand what the promise of this country is supposed to be. And the thing that gives me hope about our side and about our team is it's not like we're trying to rewrite anything. See, Donald Trump is trying to tear apart the Constitution. Donald Trump is trying to rewrite what this country is supposed to be about. But for us, making sure that in the richest country on the face of the earth, everybody has what they need to lead a decent life. It is already written in the founding documents of this country that every American deserves that. So we don't have to change anything. It is written. All we have to do is fight for it and go to every one of our neighbors. And in the words of the late, great Congresswoman Barbara Jordan, what the people want is simple, a country as great as its promise. Let's fight for that promise, and let's not back down. Thank you, Omaha.
Thank you so much, Omaha.